Okay, everyone, let's do a little demonstration of the slip knot binding. This is a very good binding for getting a journal to lie open totally flat. I've chosen pages to use today that are a lightweight cardboard that come from a vintage photo album, and they're a great size for enhancing later. But before we get started with that, I want to talk about the threads. I've used this type of thread, which is a very thick hemp. It's probably 1/4 of an inch around or 1/8 of an inch around, thick enough that if you use it, the area where you put the thread, where it comes through and makes kind of a self-enclosing knot, that will be thick, which means your pages will be farther apart. But again, it works very well. Sometimes your hands may require, if you don't work well with thin threads, this would be great. This is another option. This is waxed linen, thinner than the hemp, but given a light wax coating, makes it very strong, does not have to be stretched beforehand. The only downside to this is it's, as you can tell, it's not quite as loosey-goosey flexible, so preferences as to what you use. I use an embroidery thread that you can get at any fabric store. I'm not sure how they measure the thickness, but I noticed on the back it says 5M. And you can get this in great colors, which you can either use it, of course, for the binding to match the journal or give it a pop of color. So those are just a little bit of information on threads. If you're not sure what you want to use or and you're experimenting with the binding, go ahead and experiment with different threads. All right, let's do the demo. This is the thread. Like I said, it is the embroidery thread in a gray color. The first thing you want to do is cut a really long piece. I usually make my piece about 2 yards long so that when I double it in half, I've got about 3 to 4 feet. It's easy to work with, and it makes sure that I have enough thread. Usually I am making a journal with about 30 pages of this light cardboard, so that should be sufficient. If for some reason you run out of thread before you finish your journal, that's okay. It's easy to put additional thread. You just follow the same steps, tie off one and start this process again. So, having cut my thread, get these two, you cut as many threads as you're going to have holes, and that's totally up to you. This just happens that I'm working with 2. So you take the looped end of the thread and put it through the hole. Sometimes I have to wet it to stiffen it a little bit, and that's why, honestly, I like the bigger punch hole, easier to get the thread through. So once you have the thread pulled through, you're going to take the 2 ends and come back through the loop like that. And then I snug it up so there's no play. And we're going to do that for the same thing for every hole. Let me get this second one done. And I think the only downside to doing this is, you're working with thread that can get tangled up, so you have to have lots of patience. So now we have our first layer on. There's the back side, very neat and clean. Let's pick another one of these pages, and we're going to add, and you do this same process for every page. So now we take the end, seem to have gotten a little bit tangled here. We take at the end of our thread, both pieces, one here for some reason, I guess I didn't, let me cut that. I did not make them even. That's better. So we're going to take it and we're going to put it down through the hole, pull it through, open the threads, and pull that tail through. Okay, so here we go. We're tightening her down and bring her in nice and easy. So now we have 2 pages. Same thing, there's the end, down through the hole, both strands. Make sure you get both through. I've had that happen. You pull it through and you go, oh wait, I forgot one of them. Open it up and pull the tail through. You can see, as I mentioned, that working with thread, you have to make sure that it doesn't tangle. We'll do one more. We'll take this nice piece. No, I won't, because it's hard for you to see the thread on that. So let me get one with a little more color. Push these pages together. So same thing. Here we go. One more time. Yeah. Nothing goes perfect. So there, pull the threads through, all the way through. I usually give myself a little leeway, like about this amount of thread, so it's not, won't get tangled. Open the threads up and pull through, and then gently tighten it. Stop with this one, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like when you open it and why I like it so much for any journal that you think you might want to come back to and work in that is handmade by you rather than a store-bought one. So this process, we'll talk about papers here in a minute. There, I have pulled that through and snug it up, and periodically I go back and I just make sure that nothing has come too loose. If I'm going to walk away from this before it's totally finished, I have these wonderful clamps, and I will clamp it right there. All I'm doing is making sure that as I bounce it around, I don't loosen the binding. Now, I'm going to show you why I like it so much. When you open this journal, you can see here, let me make sure you can see here, how easy it is for those to come loose. So if you're handling it and it does, just pull them in again. I keep emphasizing this because you could get very frustrated if you didn't make sure they were snug. But every page in your journal, there'll be a little play there, but again, you're in control of that to a certain extent, will lie flat like this. It's just, and once you get it finished and tightened and knotted off, then you'll be able to open and close and work on it multiple times. So that's one of the main reasons that I like the slip knot binding. I want to show you what I do if I use paper from an old book, which I have done this binding in that. anything where you're uncertain as to whether the strength along here will hold the thread and not tear through, I reinforce it with something. This just happens to be paper tape, but I have used light cardboard. I have used multiple collage papers, whatever, just to strengthen it. And then you just do whatever you want to do on your pages. I always put the background down first so that I can work all the way around the page, and then I'll go back and do all of the enhancements and mark making and drawing. So there we have it, the slip knot binding, very easy to use and create, just requires a little patience, friends. If you have any questions, you can email me at judesartcreations@gmail.com. I'll be happy to answer them.